Just recently, I received my permanent residency permit and I'm now officially a permanent resident here in the UK. And this episode that we will be having today is very important and very essential, very interesting. So I wanted you to take note, get your pen and paper, jot down some notes because this vlog is for you. Morning everyone, welcome to my channel itKENbeyouradventures, and we are here again for another episode of Couch Talks featuring myself on another very important and very interesting topic all about starting a life here in the UK. So before we jumpstart to our vlog, let me introduce myself. So I'm Kenneth, I'm a nurse here in London, United Kingdom. So I've been living here for the last 5 years and just recently I received my permanent residency permit and I'm now officially a permanent resident here in the UK. And this episode that we will be having today is very important and very essential, very interesting. So I wanted you to take note, get your pen and paper, jot down some notes because this vlog is for you. Before we jumpstart to our topic for today, so let me invite you to subscribe to my channel itKENbeyouradventures for more travel vlogs and interesting vlogs all about life here in the UK, as well as adventures and anything under the sun about what's happening in my life in the UK. So let's jumpstart now to our topic for today. So this one is just in response or in relation to the vlog that I made I think 2 days ago about indefinite leave to remain here in the UK. So ILR, or permanent residence application here in the UK. So I've received overwhelming responses from the vlog from the last time. So I believe that this one, the topic that we will have for today, will be very essential for those who are planning to come here to the UK, or those who are planning to apply for their permits, and all people who are planning to at least for a few years planning to settle down here permanently here in the UK. So our topic for today is all about life in the United Kingdom tests. So what is life in the UK test? I've received a lot of questions coming from friends and coming from different people, may it be nurses or from other professions as well, all about life in the UK test. So this one is very essential because this is one of the requirements if you wanted to apply for an indefinite leave to remain here in the UK. So in this vlog, we're gonna cover some very important aspects of life in the UK test, which will include the cost, how much it's gonna cost you, what is life in the UK test, how many test questions will there be, what is the passing rate for this one, is there any expiry for life in the UK test if you take this exam, or how important is this one for your application for any visas down here in the UK, especially for ILR or indefinite leave to remain here in the UK. So let's start this vlog. Camera rolling. So life in the UK exam, or life in the UK test, is a computer-based exam wherein it comprises about 24 questions that pertains all about British history, life here in the UK, or anything that covers about policies that concerns about United Kingdom. So very important that you have to take this exam if you wanted to become a permanent resident here in the UK, and also if you wanted to become a British citizen. So the exam is comprising, as I said, of 24 questions, and this is meant for you to prove that the applicant has a sufficient knowledge of British history or proficiency in English. So the life in the UK test was introduced here in the UK as a requirement if you wanted to apply for British citizenship last November 2005, November 1, 2005. And if you wanted to apply as a permanent resident, then it was implemented first on the 2nd of April 2007. So it has been long running for quite a few years now as a requirement if you wanted to apply for permanent residency or for British citizenship. So life in the UK test. So there are a lot of questions that surrounding this test because a lot of probably applicants or probably those who are planning to take this life in the UK test. There are a lot of certain questions that they wanted to ask, and most of them, or probably a lot of you guys, are probably quite afraid to take the exam because it might be probably difficult, but everything is all about training and everything is all about practice. So this one, don't be afraid about it because the thing is, this is the challenge for everyone. If if you're not gonna take this exam, then you're not gonna push through with your dreams of like permanently settling down here in the UK. So, you know, you have to prepare for this one, and I will tell you, it's challenging. It's not that easy, but it's totally worth it once you are well prepared. So first, how much does it cost? So it's only cost like £50 to take this Life in the UK test, and there are around like 30 testing centers all over the UK that you can go into if you wanted to take the exam. If you plan to like take Life in the UK test, you have to book at least like 3 days prior to the date that you intend to like take the exam. And then very important that you've got your valid IDs with you if you wanted to apply for Life in the UK test. They only need your BRP, they only need your passport, and I will give you a list of valid IDs that you can prepare in order for you to like take this exam. The good thing about this exam is that it has no expiry. So once you take the exam and then you pass the exam, you don't need to take it again and again. You have to take it only once. Once you pass it, then that's it. And then it's gonna prove, this is one of the attachment documents that you need to provide when you wanted to apply for British citizenship, as well as for your indefinite leave to remain. So when can you take the exam? So you can take the exam anytime. It doesn't have any time requirement or a definite time for you to like take the exam. For as long as you're ready, you're prepared, book your schedule, book for a schedule for the test, go to the testing center and take the exam. And once you pass it, you've got a reference number that they will give you, and then that's it. That's the most important thing. Once you pass the exam, they're gonna give you the reference number, and that reference number is very important because they will ask this reference number when you apply online for your application for indefinite leave to remain in the UK or British citizenship. What if in case you didn't pass the exam? So what are you gonna do? So once you take the exam and then the result was failed, you know, you failed the exam, then you have to wait like for at least like 7 days from the time that you took the exam. And then after 7 days, you have to wait within 7 working days, and then you can retake the exam. You can retake the exam as many times as you can, but of course we don't want that to happen because we wanted you to prepare for the exam, because you know you don't want stress, hassle. It takes so much of your time and your effort. So make sure that when you take the Life in the UK test, just only take it only once. And when are you gonna know the results? Once you take the exam. It's never gonna take days. It's once you take the exam, after you finish the exam, when you go out after a few minutes, they're gonna give you the results automatically. So it's really nerve-wracking, so you have to like really prepare for the exam. Life in the UK test lasts for only 45 minutes for 24 questions. So based on my experience, I took the exam I think last year. So when I took the exam, I was from night shift then actually, and then I booked my exam after my night shift at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then when I went in the testing center, they're very strict. When you come in there, you have to like leave your bags. They're gonna have a full body check on everything, even your socks. They will see if there is anything behind your socks or in your pockets. So you have to like empty everything, empty your pockets with everything, credit cards, keys, or anything. And you are only allowed to go inside the room only by yourself. Nothing attached to yourself. Just only yourself. And there you go. They're gonna assign a seat for you. They're gonna assign a special cubicle for you because this is an online exam. For those of you who know CBT, computer-based tests, when you come here for nurses, you know, to take the exam, that's just how it looks like. You know, you're given a cubicle, and then it's like you're taking an NCLEX exam, so an online exam. So they're gonna give you instructions. Don't fret. Just keep calm, you know, stay focused on the questions on hand. They'll give you instructions on how to like answer the questions, on how to like go about with the tests. You're given like 45 minutes to answer all 24 questions. So if you're not so sure with your answers, don't just like click finish. Make sure that you review all your answers when you take the exam. So like take for example, you don't need to like consume all the 45 minutes in order for you to like finish the exam. Once you're done for the exam and you know that you're confident with your answers for the 24 questions, then you can pass the exam even if you finish it like for 15 or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or even like 20 minutes. You can just finish the exam and then you can go out, and then you will know the results by then after a few minutes. During the exam, you are also allowed to like put marks on the questions that you are not so sure of, so that you can go back. So it's not like when you answer this question, that's already the final. No. If you're not so sure with your answers, you can always like go back. You can mark all those numbers or questions that you're not so sure of in answering, and then you can always go back to them. But for as long as you're within the time frame, and then all those marked questions, make sure that at the very last or the very last minute or so, you have to decide your final answer, and then you can click finish, because it's not gonna push through if you've got like questions that are left unanswered. So make sure that all 24 questions are answered before you're gonna finish the test. And also make sure that at least 18 questions are correct out of 24, because they only need 75% and above percentile of passing rate in order for you to like pass the exam. And 75% is equivalent to 18 correct answers of the questions. So very, very crucial. So make sure that at the back of your mind, you know, when you try to like analyze all the questions, make sure that at least 18 or more, you are so sure that they are correct, all these questions. So that, you know, you've got like a peace of mind, at least you're quite confident that you've passed the exam and you're not failing the exam. So in booking or preparing for the test, in booking the test online, because you need to like book the test, so you need the following to book a test: your email address, your debit or credit card, and acceptable form of ID. So acceptable form of IDs for you if you wanted to take the exam. Take note of all of this, you know, write it down, jot it down. One is valid passport. One is your valid travel document with a photo. You cannot use an emergency travel document. Biometrics residence permit and biometric residence card. So these are like valid IDs or acceptable IDs that you can use in order for you to book the exam. And make sure that the IDs or identification cards that you've used to book the exam should be the same ID that you're gonna bring on the testing center, because they're not gonna refund that one if you bring the wrong ID. So there's no refund on this. So make sure that everything is clear. Make sure that you've got the same ID that you're gonna use when you book the exam, as well as on the day of the exam. On the day of the exam, make sure that you bring the same ID. What are the conditions for you not to take the Life in the UK test? So if you are under 18 years old, you're exempted to take Life in the UK test. If you're over 65 years old, you're also like exempted to take the exam. Or if you've taken the exam before, so of course you're not allowed to take the exam. So you're only allowed to take the exam once, and it's valid forever. There's no expiry to that. So that's the good thing about it. Some helpful tips for you to like prepare for the exam. So what is best? Either there are a lot of options for you to like prepare for the exam, because there are books that that will help you about Life in the UK tests. There are books that you can buy online, or you can borrow from libraries as well. And there is also like apps where there are a set of questions, series of questions that you can answer online. But as for me, my suggestion is, you know, whatever works with you. But for me, what works for me well is online. So most of my good friends who are planning to like apply for Life in the UK test, or if they're planning to like take the exam, I would always like tell them to like practice questions. Like there are a lot of applications wherein you can answer some questions, or apps that are connected with the Home Office to practice for your Life in the UK test. Because I believe that, you know, there is more retention on this, because, you know, there are a lot of questions pertaining to British history, like that. So they're very specific. So you can't just use the process of elimination, or there are a lot of techniques that you can use on this exam, because they're very, very specific. Like they will ask for certain dates, they will ask for names of people, names of important personalities or places. And if you have no idea about these things, then you're fucked up. You know, it's all done. So you have to like really practice. So for me, it's very, very important that you go straight ahead to questions and then familiarize yourself with the questions, because these questions online that are present are still the same questions that's gonna be asked in the Life in the UK test. So for me, it's much better that you review online, download some apps for Life in the UK test, because there are a lot of apps in your phones, in Android or in iPhone, that you can download and then you can practice. Make sure that at least you allot at least like time for you to practice, at least 1 or 2 hours every day, like at least like 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to your exam. At least you're well prepared, and now you know and you get used to the questions being asked. So repeatedly, when you're like familiar with the questions, you get to like memorize the answers, and once you're on the test, the time that you take the exam, it will be easier for you, because you've already got a registry of all the questions that are supposedly to come out from the exam. There's not much of any difference actually with the questions that will be asked and the questions that you're reviewing online. So as for me, for convenience sake, do the online review rather than like reading all this information and you got like information overload, because this is a multiple choice based exam. So there are a lot of options that you can like tick off. So once you familiarize all the answers with a certain type of questions, then you're gonna ace this exam. Some of the questions here will give you an example of a question that's gonna come out probably gonna come out in Life in the UK test. So, who were the first people to arrive in Britain in what we call the Stone Age? A. Farmers, B. Hunter-gatherers, C. Warriors, or D. Pirates? Probably hunter-gatherers. So correct, hunter-gatherers. So these are like some of the questions that they're gonna answer. And like this question, another example. When did Britain become permanently separated from the continent by the Channel? A. 10,000 years ago. B. 50,000 years ago. C. 15,000 years ago. Or D. 18,000 years ago. Maybe 50,000 years ago. Oh my god, it's 10,000 years ago. So this is what I'm telling you. These are specific questions. So if you don't really know about all of these questions, you can't just use the process of elimination on this. But this one I've observed. This is just my observation, but this is just my theory. It has no basis on it. I just like observe it. If you don't know the answer, like take for example, it's all about numbers. If you don't know the answer, always choose the answer with number 4. I don't know what's with number 4 on the test questions, but most of the time, I'm not saying it's 100% sure, but most of the time, responses or answers with number 4 is like the correct answer. That's just how my theory is, but you know, it might be wrong, it might be right, but you know, most of the time, those are the questions that I've encountered, even on my practice test. Most of the time, questions that I don't know, I just answer responses with number 4, and you know, they ended up like correct. So, these are just my theories. So, it depends on you if you wanted to apply this theory onto yourself, if you wanted to like prepare for the exam, but this is just how it is. So guys, that's it for the vlog for this time about Life in the UK test. I hope you get inputs, tips, and also helpful information about Life in the UK test. And hopefully, you prepare for the exam properly. You don't go to the exam unprepared because you wanted to take it only once, and once you've done this one, you're on your way to your dream to becoming a permanent resident of UK.